At an October 7th news conference at City Hall, Mayor Daley was joined by local leaders, U.S. Attorney General Eric Holder, and Department of Education Secretary Arne Duncan to address the topic of youth violence, which was the subject at a breakfast meeting held earlier in the day. Here are highlights of the news conference on Chicago Works.
We are honored this morning that the Attorney General of the United States, Eric Holder, and the United States Secretary of Education, Arne Duncan, have come to Chicago to talk with us about how the federal government and the city of Chicago can better work together to end the violence against our young people. The needless and brutal violence that continues to take our children from us is an outrage. Even one child lost to violence is one too many in our city. I am very thankful that it is also the outrage of the administration leaders in Washington, D.C. Every Chicagoan has a responsibility to help prevent and end the violence. So does every level of government, local, state, and federal. To help deepen our partnership with Washington, I met this morning with Attorney General Holder and Secretary Arne Duncan and community leaders and faith-based leaders. It was a very, very productive meeting. Among the things we talked about, how best to focus our resources on the young people and the families who need help the most without sacrificing other priorities. The importance of offering more Saturday and after-school programs at local schools, where our young people can learn and take part in other positive activities. How to get more adults involved with our young people as mentors, and how to more effectively tell the success stories. And I see the success stories involving many young people and families who can serve as role models for their peers in every community of our city. Yesterday, as you know, I made some specific requests of the federal government, which included asking the Department of Justice to work better with us to align Department of Justice resources in Chicago with our efforts to break up the gangs and address the youth violence. To address the important issue of sharing critical information between schools, professional people in schools, and local law enforcement on youth violence, dealing with federal law and even state law that prevents that. And to provide more funding, not only for police, dedicated in and around our schools, but more funding for good after-school programs and Saturday programs. Let us remember, much of the violence against Chicago's young people involved gang violence, unfortunately. We need the help of the federal government to help break up the gangs in our city, which does not end at a city limit, and the terror that may bring to communities not only the city, but throughout the country. We also need the support to provide more after-school and other programs that help us intervene in a child's life before they get on the wrong track. Their presence here today sends a very powerful message to the gangbangers and dope dealers that we will not tolerate their violent way of life, and to the people of Chicago that they support our efforts to provide positive alternatives to all of our children. We look forward to working more closely with the federal government to protect all of our children. This is not just one meeting. We're talking about just one neighborhood or just one school. These are issues brewing beneath the surface at other schools and other communities and other cities. We need to address them immediately as a crisis. If we get it right together, all of us can truly make a difference. Now I'd like to ask the Attorney General of the United States of America, Holder, to please speak. Thank you. Thank you, Eric.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Nearly 2 weeks ago, this nation was shocked by a video showing scenes of such graphic violence that they left an indelible mark in the mind of every American who has seen them. Now, for many Americans who live with the threat of violence every day, the video was a sad reminder of the harshness and the cruelty that remains all too prevalent in many parts of this country. For others, it was a stark wake-up call to a reality that can be easy for too many to ignore as they go about their daily lives. For me, and for this administration, it was a call to action to address a challenge that affects this entire nation. Youth violence is not a Chicago problem, any more than it is a black problem, a white problem, or a Hispanic problem. It is something that affects communities big and small, and people of all races and all colors. It is an American problem. The Department of Justice is releasing a new study today that measures the effects of youth violence in America, and the results are staggering. More than 60% of the children surveyed were exposed to violence in the past year, either directly or indirectly. Neither half of children and adolescents were assaulted at least once, and more than 1 in 10 was injured as a result. Nearly 1/4 were the victim of a robbery, vandalism, or theft, and 1 in 16 were victimized sexually. Now, those numbers are astonishing, and they are unacceptable. We simply cannot stand for an epidemic of violence that robs our youth of their childhood and perpetuates a cycle in which too many of today's victims become tomorrow's criminals. Now, we're here today to continue a public safety conversation that the Obama administration began on day one. It has included a law enforcement summit that I hosted at the Department of Justice, a White House gang prevention conference, and countless episodes of collaboration with local law enforcement. But it's not a conversation where we want to do all of the talking. We want to listen to educators, to parents, to students, and to experts in the field and find out the best ideas for addressing this urgent problem. We're not interested in just scratching the surface or focusing on generalities. And as we delve into this problem, we're not going to protect any sacred cows. We're here to learn firsthand what's happening on our streets so that we can devise effective solutions. Now, our responses to this issue in the past have been fragmented. The federal government does one thing, states do another, and localities do a third. We need a comprehensive, coordinated approach to address today's youth violence, one that encompasses the latest research and the freshest approaches. We have to ask hard questions, and we have to be prepared to face tough truths. Our administration is committed to implementing such strategies, which is why we've asked for $24 million in next year's budget for community-based crime prevention programs such as Ceasefire and Project Safe Neighborhood. And it's why our Office of Justice Programs is available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, to provide support and assistance to communities affected by violence. There are no quick fixes. This will not happen overnight. Our approach will need to involve not just law enforcement, but also faith-based organizations, the business community, and social service groups. Every citizen has to be a part of the solution. We will need a combination of prevention, intervention, and targeted enforcement. Now, we started by meeting today with community leaders here in Chicago and with students from Fenger High School. I'll be honest, these were not all easy conversations. There's a lot of frustration, and there's a lot of pain right now, and there should be. The status quo is not acceptable. But I want the people of Chicago and the people of this nation to know that we are not going to rest until we've done everything that we can to protect the American people, to protect American children, and to stem this tide of violence. The Department of Justice has already committed resources to helping keep our children and our schools safe. Just last week, we announced $16 million through our Cops Secure Our Schools program in grants to law enforcement agencies and municipalities throughout the country, including almost $500,000 to the city of Chicago. These grants provide funds to improve security in schools and on school grounds by helping to pay for security measures like metal detectors, locks, surveillance systems, and other equipment to help deter crime. These are only first steps, and we will do more. I talked to the President about this, and he is firmly committed to this issue, as are Secretary Duncan and myself. So today is the continuation of what is going to be a sustained national effort on behalf of this entire administration to address youth violence and to make our streets safe for everyone. Now I'd like to turn it over to the Secretary of Education, Arne Duncan.
In recent weeks, America has seen a side of Chicago that we all wish didn't exist. The graphic video of Fenger High School student Darian Albert being fatally beaten is terrifying, heartbreaking, and tragic. It shocks the conscience. This bright and happy young honor student had his whole life ahead of him, but now has been cut short due to senseless violence. I came here at the direction of the President not to place blame on anyone, but to join with Chicago, with communities across America in taking responsibility for this death and the deaths of so many other young people over the years. Shining stars like Blair Holt, Starkeisha Reed, and Dantrell Davis, and dozens of others over the years here in Chicago were victims of a society that has somehow lost its way and that's allowed too many of our children to devalue life. Somehow, many of our young people have lost faith in the future. They've been denied the love, support, and guidance they need, and have grown up believing that their life is not worth anything, so no one else's life is worth anything either. It's difficult to show love when you've never been loved. It's difficult to build a positive future when you don't think you'll live past the age of 18. These are problems we cannot solve just with money, or by pointing fingers at each other, or by looking the other way. We must engage directly with our children, starting at the youngest age. We must engage with them at every stage of their lives and teach them that violence doesn't solve anything, and that respect for others is the foundation for a safe and healthy society. It's an important lesson that every parent, every teacher, and every adult needs to understand so they can pass it on to young people, whether it's their own children or someone else's. Every adult shares in this responsibility. Every adult needs to connect because all children need adults in their lives. It starts with parents, but it always continues with others, teachers, coaches, mentors, and friends. I came here today not merely out of sadness, but with hope and compassion for our children. I came here because I believe in Chicago's capacity to deal with this openly, honestly, and directly. This is my home. This is the city I grew up in, where I played ball and tutored children in a church on the South Side basement. My friends are here. My family is here. I learned everything I know in these communities and in these schools. And I learned about character. This is a city that never gives up when it's challenged. This is a city that always unites in the face of adversity. This is a city that has produced great leaders and thinkers, a great mayor, and America's first black president, men and women who are shaping the future and giving real meaning to the words like courage and strength and pride. Chicago won't be defined by this incident, but rather by our response to it. So I came here today to join with all of you and with communities across America for a national conversation on values. It's a conversation that should happen in every city, in every suburb, and every town in America where violence and intolerance and discrimination exists. Chicago is not unique. 4 students have been shot in Tulsa, Oklahoma already this year. Philadelphia, Seattle, Miami, New Orleans, and many rural communities have also lost school children to violence in recent weeks. And the cost goes far beyond their immediate victims and their families. When children are fearful, they can't learn. If they can't learn, then we are all at risk because our future depends on the quality of education we give our children. This morning, Attorney General Eric Holder and I started the conversation with Mayor Daley and with faith and community leaders. We talked with elected officials and school officials. We also met with Fenger students and parents and the principal. And the students, it was amazing, we united in their request for one thing. They want mentors. They want more adults in their lives who care about them. They're extraordinary children in Fenger, and they want us to meet them more than halfway. We plan to go to other cities and to meet and talk with people and find ways to protect our children. I am committed to this fight. I am committed to this cause. And I promise to work as long as necessary to rid our country of this plague. I also told CPS officials the Department of Education is planning to give an emergency grant to help restore the learning environment at Fenger. They can choose to use the money as they best see fit, and Principal Liz Dozer is doing an extraordinary job there, whether it's for counselors or for extended day programs or to help build mentoring programs. This money is not just for Fenger, but for schools that feed into Fenger as well. But we all know this is not about money. Money alone will never solve this problem. It's much deeper than that. It's about values, and it's about who we are as a society. And it's about taking responsibility for our young people to teach them what they need to know to live side by side and deal with their differences without anger and without violence. They must learn to love themselves and to love each other. Every one of us must take responsibility for this. To those who seek to lay blame on anyone else, I challenge you to ask first, what have you done? This is the time to look in the collective mirror and ask whether we like what we see or whether we can do better and do better together. I challenge every parent, community leader, and adult to step up and join in this conversation. No one should get a pass today. I challenge our students to sit down with each other, to talk, to listen and debate, and come together to create the kind of action we need. And again, the students today from Fenger were absolutely phenomenal. The first responsibility of a healthy society is to find common ground and work together towards a common good. That's what made America, that's what made Chicago, and that's what it will take for communities across this country to bring an end to this violence that's taken the lives of so many smart and gifted and talented young people. I am forever grateful that all that Chicago has offered me. I was deeply honored to serve this mayor. I'm deeply honored now to serve this president. Above all, I'm honored to serve the people of Chicago and America, and today I ask for your hand in partnership as we work together to raise our children safely, to enable them to grow up free of fear, and to educate them and allow them to fulfill their dreams. As fathers and as parents, that's what we want for all of our children. Thank you.
Thank you. I also want to point out, I want to thank the group of parents over many years called Purpose Over Pain, where they lost a loved one, and they'll never forget their young child. But most importantly, they have stepped up to the plate, going to Springfield or Washington, D.C., on behalf of effective gun legislation in order to protect the children, not only of our city, but throughout the country. Thank you.